So today we're going to dive into Donald S. Murray's incredible play, Sequamur. It's this powerful story that really gets into the weeds of memory, the brutal truth of war, and most importantly, the incredible and sometimes dangerous power of words. And it all centers on this one guy, a former headmaster who's forced to face the ghosts of a past that he helped create. And it all kicks off with just a few words. This simple, gut-wrenching plea from a mother, Mrs. Finlayson. Picture this, she's standing in front of a brand new war memorial at her son's old school, and she's just looking for his name, but she can't find it. And that one quiet moment of personal loss, that's the spark that sets this whole story on fire. And the person who hears her say this is the school's former headmaster, William John Gibson. Now, this is a man who prided himself on remembering every single one of his boys. But this name, Duncan Finlayson, it's a total blank. That one forgotten name becomes this massive crack in the foundation of his memories, and it forces him to start questioning, well, everything. So what's Gibson's first reaction? Is it empathy? Nope. He pulls back, gets all intellectual, and starts quoting Homer. He frames the dead as just leaves in a natural cycle. It's this poetic, almost distant way of looking at it. And it's such a sharp contrast to the raw, real grief of a mother who just wants to see her son's name carved in stone.
So the problem is simple, but it's huge. A name is missing. And this isn't just some clerical error. For Gibson, this becomes a deep, personal, moral failure. It makes him go back and dig through all his old records, his letters, the dusty corners of his own mind, all to find a boy he sent off to war but somehow can't remember.
To really get why this happened, we have to jump back in time. The play transports us to Gibson's classroom in August 1914, right as the world is about to explode. And here, he's not some forgetful old man. He is a magnetic, powerful teacher shaping the minds of these young boys, including, you guessed it, a very real Duncan Finlayson.
This is the kind of stuff you'd hear in Gibson's classroom. He's filling their heads with these heroic, classical phrases, painting a picture of war not as some bloody, awful mess, but as a grand stage where they can prove their valor.
Fortune favors the brave. You got to see what he's doing here. He's basically programming his students with these ancient ideals. He's using this classical education to raise a generation of boys who believe that courage, glory, and noble sacrifice are the greatest things a man can aspire to, virtues they're all about to be asked to show on the battlefield.
But here's the thing. Not everyone in that classroom was buying it. There's this amazing tension. On one side, you've got Gibson's romantic dream of war as the ultimate field trip. And on the other, you have this skepticism of the student Patterson, who's voicing what a lot of people are actually thinking. It's a total clash between epic poetry and cold, hard reality. And this was the grand promise he sold them. He told these boys that by going off to fight in places like Turkey, they weren't just fighting a modern war. Oh no, they were literally marching into the pages of the epics they'd studied. They were becoming the next chapter in the heroic story of civilization. I mean, how could a young man resist that? So, about that promise? Yeah, it gets absolutely shattered. The play just yanks us out of that idealistic classroom and drops us on the brutal shores of Gallipoli. And the voices we hear now aren't the teachers. They belong to the soldiers themselves, riding home from hell. We start with this beautiful, romantic image from Homer, the wine-dark sea. It's the exact ideal Gibson planted in their heads, a vision of a noble struggle on some mythic ocean. It sounds heroic, right? Well, this is the reality. The words of an actual soldier. The battlefield wasn't a heroic landscape, it was a disgusting mix of a garbage dump and a cemetery. That beautiful wine-dark sea was, in reality, stained red with blood. And the horror wasn't just from bullets. It was sickening. The soldiers talk about swarms of flies spreading disease everywhere. I mean, that's a detail that's a million miles away from the clean, heroic stories they learned in school. This was a war against filth and sickness, just as much as it was against another army. And maybe this is the final insult. Death didn't always come in a blaze of glory. It came from flash floods that filled the trenches. It came from freezing to death because a winter storm hit and they were still in summer uniforms. It was cruel, it was random, and it had absolutely none of the poetic justice they were promised. And in the end, this is the final count. 148. That's 148 boys from this one school who never came home. This single, brutal number is the true price of all those glorious lessons. And the play makes it painfully clear that the war didn't just end in 1918. We jump back to the post-war world, and we see the deep, lasting scars carried by the ones who actually survived. I mean, just take Jessie's story. Her husband survived Gallipoli, but in a way, the war followed him right into their home. At night, he's back there, reliving the landings, and he lashes out violently in his sleep. The battlefield has moved into their bedroom, and Jessie is now a casualty of a war that's supposedly over.
And this is the question that just haunts Gibson. It's delivered by the ghost of the boy he forgot, Duncan Finlayson. And it is a direct hit. The war was sold to them as this great crusade for a better, more just world. And this question just throws that lie right back in Gibson's face. It forces him to answer for the world that they actually got.
So all of this, the guilt, the broken promises, the ghosts, it all builds to this one climactic moment. Gibson, a man completely broken by his past, is asked to unveil the war memorial and give a speech. You know, the one thing on earth he feels he has absolutely no right to do.
But then something amazing happens. Finlayson's ghost offers him this totally paradoxical logic. He tells Gibson that the only person who is fit to speak for the dead is the one who doubts himself the most. Why? Because any smooth, confident speech would be a lie. The only honest way to talk about this horror is to stumble, to stammer, to show the struggle.
And so, Gibson speaks. But the words he uses, they're not about glory or Homer or adventure anymore. They are about debt. He tells his community that their very existence was bought and paid for by the lives of these 148 boys. It's a speech that's just heavy with the crushing weight of sacrifice, not the easy rhetoric of his past. And that's where the play leaves us, turning Gibson's own metaphor right back on us. If we are the new leaves, what do we remember of the storm that came before? It forces you to ask, what stories are we going to tell? And what weight will we give to the words we choose when we try to remember?